poems The Soldier of Mictlan and There Will Come Soft Rains both examine the results of the motif of war, but through two drastically differing viewpoints. The Soldier of Mictlan is a short narrative poem describing a lone soldier's march through the town of Mictlan. The theme presented by the poet Rigoberto Gonzalez in his piece is that the hollowing and harmful effects of war on the individual are universal. He uses symbolism, enjambment, mood, and connotation to support his point of view. Mictlan is the major symbol of the piece. Mictlan is actually the name of the Aztec purgatory, where people make an arduous, chaotic, and violent 4-year journey through the expansive land to reach the final sector of death. However, the poem is not chronicling such a mythological journey. Rather, the Mictlan in the poem is a town with a name that signifies symbolic meaning. The poet chooses the name Mictlan for the town in order to emphasize the soldier's emotional state between life and death, borrowing Mictlan's characteristics of an arduous and lengthy purgatory to represent the soldier's internal conflict. The poem begins with the soldier alive. He is marching to Mictlan, the purgatory. In the town, the soldier realizes his emptiness, and after making a final failed plea for his life, marches in the other direction toward distant hills, ultimately choosing death. Through the symbol of Mictlan, representing the soldier's grueling and difficult mortal decision between an empty life and death, Gonzalez highlights the hollowing and harmful effects of war, which drive the soldier to such a decision. The most striking visual characteristic of the poem is Gonzalez's use of enjambment. He rarely ends a line with complete syntax, and every line ends with the word soldier. Gonzalez uses the technique to further emphasize the true scope of the effects of war on the unnamed protagonist. Every line of the poem and almost every part of this protagonist is constantly defined with the word soldier. He steps in soldier boots, speaks in soldier words, and begs in soldier wishes. He even searches in his soldier head for a moment of soldier bliss to tell the town people, and he is unable to find anything. The constant repetition of the word and the soldier's inability to find happiness shows that he has no other defining characteristic in the poem. Gonzalez demonstrates that the soldier and his mind have been completely consumed by war. The soldier's internal conflict in the second half of the poem supports the idea that the mood is empty and hopeless. Gonzalez uses depressed language relating to the soldier's emotions, such as silence stiffened the soldier, and talking about places where no lost soldier finds bread. Additionally, Gonzalez uses sentence structure to communicate a hopeless mood, using uncharacteristically short sentences to declare that all was dead and that there was no space for a soldier life. The depressed mood reflects the soldier's emotions of desperation and depression, supporting Gonzalez's belief of the harmful effects of war. Two important uses of connotation relate to war's universal effect. The poem begins with the common phrase, "once upon a time." Although the soldier is in Mictlan, the differences between the mythological Mictlan and the town Mictlan show that the phrase does not carry a fantastical connotation. Instead, the phrase is used to communicate that the story can occur in any point in history. There is no specified time period, and there is no specified war. The word soldier also contains a certain connotation. Though words such as troops or ground forces conjure images of cooperative and systematic power, soldier has a more domestic connection, placing focus on a person's humanity, patriotism, or individualism, a fitting word choice to examine the complex emotions of the main character. Both once upon a time and soldier are vague words, suggesting to the reader that the events are universal. Additionally, before the soldier asks the town people for bread, the narrator asks the reader, "Do you know what this soldier said?" as if expecting the reader to know due to the pervasiveness of the situation. There Will Come Soft Rains is a short poem that tells of life after humanity's extinction. The theme of this piece is that if humanity were to destroy itself in war, nature would continue obliviously. Sarah Teasdale uses figurative language, alliteration, mood, and imagery to demonstrate this theme. Teasdale uses figurative language in the last rhyming couplet by personifying the season of spring. Not only is Teasdale able to directly state that nature would not notice humanity's absence, she is also able to stress that humanity is ultimately forgettable. By attributing human qualities of intelligence to spring and using the reflexive pronoun spring herself, Teasdale places spring at a level of cognizance and power. Then, Teasdale directly states that spring would forget humanity, emphasizing how little nature would remember humans, despite spring's attributed sentient qualities. The three poetic devices of alliteration, imagery, and mood are all interconnected. The alliteration and imagery in the piece work together to create a lighthearted mood. There are several examples of alliteration in the piece, and their use in the poem suggests the poet's purpose for the language style. Teasdale uses alliteration in the first three stanzas of the poem. The first three stanzas are descriptions of nature's return. Thus, Teasdale is using alliteration to show the peaceful and harmonic workings of nature through rhythmic language. Teasdale repeats soft sounds to create a calm mood, repeating sounds such as soft rains and the smell of ground, swallows circling with their shimmering sound. Additionally, she uses descriptive alliteration such as feathery fire and describing birds as whistling their whims. All this alliteration helps to create a lighthearted mood. The imagery is also primarily present in the first three descriptive stanzas. Teasdale uses the imagery to help the reader imagine the peace of flourishing life by appealing to multiple senses. She describes the smell of the ground, the shimmering sound of swallows, the tremulous white of plum flowers, and the fiery appearance of robin feathers to convince the reader that nature is behaving normally. The heavy imagery appeals to the reader's imagination and paints a tranquil scene, effectively adding to the calm and lighthearted mood of the poem. The poem's mood is used to demonstrate the carefree quality of nature. The alliteration's lighthearted effect and the imagery's calm scene contrast the grave situation of human extinction. They are meant to show that nature has not changed. Although both poems discuss the consequences of war, Gonzalez places focus on individual emotions, while Teasdale places humanity in a larger context.